Audience, if you happen to have anyone younger than the age of 14 in the room listening to this podcast with you, please escort them out, as this is not a safe podcast for young people to listen to, just like episode 5 of Star Trek Picard. And on top of that, there's spoilers and speculation galore, like wild, crazy speculation. Starfleet Boy is nuts in this episode. Attend carefully. Thank you. Okay, now I'm recording the audio track, and so I'm about to reveal to you that which
my
needs
goodness.
to be revealed.
Reveal yourself, creature.
Hello, I am the Hermit of La Barre. I am so villainous. Oh, yes. Was that worth it? Was that good?
It was absolutely worth it.
The way that I dressed
you should have put like a black piece of paper on your glasses.
I know.
On one side.
I know. I was too lazy to do the eye
full
patch.
effect, but it's not bad. It's not bad.
It's Je suis le Hermit de La Barre. I don't know if I'm saying that right. How would you say I am the Hermit of La Barre?
Je suis l'Hermite de La Barre.
Ooh.
Ooh.
That's how I wish Patrick Stewart spoke, but he chose to do a very interesting French character.
He chose to do, well, in this episode specifically, he chose to do a French person that's speaking English, right?
Oh, that's true, but like it's exaggerated. I think it's a little I've never met a French person that speaks English that way. By the way, I got this beret in Paris when I was in Paris, walking from Paris to
on Free Cloud.
I got it on Free Cloud. So I didn't have a black shiny coat, so I wore a different shiny coat, but I did have some some flair. Just like the Hermit, l'Hermite. You have to center yourself because you're so below me. Do you see how far my head? Do you see the side by side?
I'm not sure I can do anything about it.
There you
go.
That's way better. Yeah, it makes me feel better. It makes me feel.
You don't want to talk down on me?
I don't want to lord over you.
What did you think of the episode?
It's Starfleet Boy, not Starfleet Lord.
Starfleet Lord. Ooh.
Starfleet Lord. Could you imagine?
That's for Downton Abbey.
Well,
if you're doing Downton Abbey discussions,
I 100% feel like Star Trek Picard is Downton Abbey in space. It's like everything I've ever
wanted.
was
for a while. Now it's not.
No, even the whole the fact that the chateau is upstairs and the ship is downstairs, and he retreats to a chateau and everyone's served. It's so very still very Downton Abbey in space for me. And our poor Lord.
Everyone's all like debating about something, and he's just like, "Let me retreat to my chateau."
Yeah, he just goes to the chateau and he chills out. He even lied in this episode. He's like, "It was not my idea." He tells 7 of 9 like, "Oh no." She's like, but you liked it enough to keep it, didn't you? Didn't you, Jean-Luc?
JL.
All right, so we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal. We forgot to clap.
Oh goodness! See how casual and informal it is.
It is. It's such a casual and informal show. It's probably very frustrating.
Amateur.
Oh, okay. So here we go.
How do your listeners put up with this?
We're gonna do the clap. Ready? 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. Nice. That was good. Usually, like I think there was one episode where I was actually able to cut the clap out when it started properly.
But you don't need the clap anymore, right? Because you're doing this on this new.
Right, but now we did the whole gag about the Hermit of La Barre, and so I guess I don't know. It's editing is such a chore. It's
Tell me about it.
yes, you do a good job, by the way. Do you
Oh, thank you.
ooh
Hmm. What's going
hmm
on?
would you take? You're too busy. I was gonna say, would you take a commission? Would you just edit a video for me if I gave you all the instructions?
I suppose I could if I have all the instructions and if it's not out of my you know capacity because I'm not. I pretend like I know how to edit, but the truth is I don't. People like Gary and Nick know how to do it way better.
Well, they just been doing it probably a few more hours than you.
Probably. I need to get some better software too. Because as of now, I can't like overlap multiple audios. I can only have one audio. I can't do
As one
music
of your
behind.
patrons, I give you permission to use my Patreon money
Hey,
to
look, I'm working on it.
oh good, good.
If there's a crossover audience between my four patrons and anyone listening here, know that the money is being accumulated and set aside into a special little bank account that will
That's
one day be
very
used
excellent.
to all of it. 100% of it just goes. I have a bank account, a savings account, which I've called YouTube,
Hmm.
and
I would
eventually I'll
stop
have
being
another.
your patron though if you didn't do Star Trek videos. I'm just letting you know that right now.
You think? Really?
I would. I would leave the patronage. If like tomorrow you decided you were gonna go full expanse,
I
I
went
would
rogue or
probably
something.
stay. I might stay
Oh,
for
wait,
the
oh, that's the only thing. The expense.
I would probably stay for the expanse, but
What if I started doing like top 10 Marvel supervillains or whatever?
I might tune in. I've already seen way too much of that stuff.
Gary Gary honored me by saying because we were talking about someone else's review of the original series or whatever it was, and he was being like, nah, I'm not gonna watch it, whatever. And I was like, you don't even know if it's good. And he goes, I don't care. He says the only reviews I watch are yours. I'm like, oh, that's very kind. He's being all
um
dismissive, like I don't want to know about it.
I don't want to know. It's good. Gary's awesome. That reminds me, we have to give a shout out to Gary, who is he's a patron in a way. He is the patron of my channel as far as he's the patron of the arts, I would say. So thank you, Gary,
He is.
for your artwork.
He's a patron to all our channels in the sense that he does all the artwork and he puts in all this
He puts
time and
in
effort.
so much time, and so I try to remember to take any moment to like plug him and say that you should hire Gary as your designer, and Blair too. Blair's amazing.
Everyone needs a Gary.
Everyone needs a Gary. Gary's amazing. So back on track. We're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. We are focused today on Star Trek Picard. This is our
What?
further.
I thought we were talking about Star Trek Voyager.
Well, we can because I just watched,
What did you just
and
watch?
that's why my eyes are still kind of.
What did you
I
just watch?
cried. Imperfection, season 7, episode
I don't believe you.
after
Wait a minute.
Unimatrix.
Wait a minute. This is part of your full rewatch of Star Trek Voyager.
I skipped ahead because of Jerry Ryan.
I was gonna say, how dare you already?
I
Like you're
couldn't
already at season 7. That's
I
insane.
couldn't help myself. I had to know. I saw on the internet that this was an important episode for this episode of Picard, and it is. It ties in because of the missing
Cortical node.
cortical node in Icheb,
She's
which
like,
broke my heart.
"Where's your cortical node? It should be there, and
I
it's
know, and
not
now
because
so I cried so much because now I know what that means, and it was like too much tears to hold back. And while we're at it, today's Jerry Ryan's birthday, and so she's such an awesome
is it
performer.
really?
Yeah, I'd like to wish her a happy birthday on Starfleet Boy.
Absolutely.
Um, and the Hermit of La Barre wishes you a happy birthday. Eh? Eh? Are you going to have a happy one? Eh? Oh ho ho!
Not
Let us
anymore.
stop pretending now, huh?
Are we still pretending? Not
No,
anymore.
it's not anymore. So this is our further discussions. For our poor audience, the ones that stick through it all, this is like the third time
Oh my god, is this really?
The third time I'm talking about Picard. We did a initial reaction with The Martian on Thursday, and then I did a Drunk Space 9 with another episode that interestingly kind of has tie-ins to Picard from Deep Space Nine called The Visitor. And then today with I actually think it's quite apropos that you are a Voyager fan and that you love Voyager, because I think that's going to be the focus of this further discussion,
You're
at
trying
least
to
for me.
justify my existence on this show. That's very kind. You've already done two conversations.
I'm trying
Everyone's
to
dropping
tell
out at this
you
point. They're like,
I'm
nah.
trying to tell you that no matter what, if you needed my cortical node, I would definitely give it to you.
Oh, absolutely.
I would definitely donate my cortical node to you and try to regenerate myself.
Well, Ichib didn't need his cortical node to function,
Right, but
right?
he didn't know that. He did all the science. It was
Or-
actually an awesome episode because he like sciences out he outsciences the Dr. Zimmerman himself, because he knows, you know.
I'll tell you what. I was not necessarily heartbroken but like the moment I saw the like the nose, because they do a first little shot when you only see half his face. I knew it was Ichib. I was like, oh my god, it's Ichib. The moment like that piece of makeup came on screen, right? Anyway, I wasn't necessarily heartbroken to see him dead, but I was like, all right, this is. I understand why they did it because it has so much impact and so much meaning for Seven of Nine, and
Well,
she goes on to explain it further as well.
I mean, I could see
Um,
why she considers him, why she says my child
hmm,
in Picard, just from the episode just
you
for
haven't. S-
I don't know
you haven't.
Ichib at all. This is my
Okay,
first time.
you have to go and watch
I know.
the. There's an Ichib episode where they find his parents, and I won't say anything more, but they find his parents because they have multiple little Borg children on the ship, and he's the
Yeah,
elder,
in this
and
episode, they were saying goodbye at the beginning to two of them who
the
they'd found
twins.
homes for. I guess so. I wasn't sure,
Mm.
and that's how they learned that her cortical node was malfunctioning, because she gets a tear, but it wasn't like one that she was actually feeling. And that's actually really poignant and beautiful, because at the end of the episode, she's after the implant's successful, she's actually crying because she's so moved by Icheb's persistence and his sacrifice. So it was just.
I'll find the Ichib episode, and I'll tell you to watch it because it'll give you a lot of backstory on Ichib, and it like so now I can't spoil it for you, but okay, here's the thing: Ichib's story is a very sad one, but it's also very beautiful because he remains like such a good person, such a good character. And so Wife on the Tube was distraught by his death, and she said I haven't been impacted by like a fictional character's death like this in quite a while. She said because he was such a nice guy, he was a genuinely good person, and he just dies on this torture table.
It's
Poor
it's
guy.
horrifying. That's why I said in my tweet to you that I felt that the reaction that you saw in that poll was accurate, because like we get caught up in the heat of the moment with all this emotion. I think even without me knowing who Ichib was, it's still very impactful, you know.
There are like multiple. The poll you're talking about for
Yeah,
context
I
is
like the middle answer best. That's the one that it should be. That should have been like leading the way. That's the one that's the most,
what was the
you know.
question?
The
It
question was
was
like, do you think that it was justified for Seven of Nine to murder or kill
mm,
Bjayzl, right?
yeah.
And in my eyes, like Bjayzl is unremorseful for. She even says, "Oh," like something along the lines of, "Oh, because I killed your little friend." Like she's still taunting Seven of Nine, even though she's facing a moment here where Seven of Nine can easily kill her. Like she's unremorseful. Like she's a horrible, very very far gone, horrible character. And it's one of those. I think it's this odd situation of like when Mace Windu and Palpatine and Anakin are sitting in this like situation where you have the Emperor at bay, and the Emperor's like, like pleading with Anakin to save him, but Mace Windu's like, he's too effing crazy. Like this guy's gone. Like the only solution to the Emperor is like to kill him. That's what Mace Windu wants to do, right? And so I think that like it's that kind of moment for Seven of Nine, and she doesn't have, thank goodness, she doesn't have an Anakin there to like cut her hands off and let the Emperor survive, because I think, and I hate to feel this way, but I genuinely think the galaxy's a better place without Bjayzl in it. Even though she looks like Mirror
Okay, that's
Universe,
interesting.
you
Well,
know, even though she looks
I
like
would like
Mirror
to
Universe, Deanna Troi.
I would like to officially state that 20 years ago, watching Voyager or watching The Next Generation or something, the fandom would have not reacted like that at all. And I think that even you in that time, you would have probably said something along the lines of, what Seven did is just it's it's I don't know, it's
So
murder,
I
it's
can
straight up
relate it
murder.
so I can relate it to another moment, which is when Data pulls the, trigger on the phaser in, All the Toys or whatever that episode's called,
And
where that guy is imprisoning him and he tortures that poor, character to death and, like, burns her face. He's just, like, this horrid character, and at the end, Data also he's faced with the same thing, and he actually if it wasn't for the fact that the Enterprise just happened to beam him out on time, he would have fired and disintegrated that character, right? So I already went through that sort of before, and I was actually like, yeah, I would have done the same exact thing.
All right, so
So just for me
there's two
person,
sides to this that seem
yeah.
to contradict each other. How I because on one side I'm talking about the fandom, and I think that
Oh, gotcha. Sorry.
the fandom has changed, and the fandom accepts and is
You can't
behind this
argue.
act.
You can't argue
But
with
I
the
don't think
fact
they
that
would have.
Oh, sorry.
I don't think that they would have been behind this act like before. But the new Star Trek fandom accepts the act. Regarding Seven of Nine's character specifically, it makes total sense for her to do that because the only thing stopping her from being a complete psychopath was Janeway. Because even like this throughout the entire like run of Voyager, every time there's like an extreme situation or whatever, like Seven of Nine always jumps to the most extreme, most logical in a sense, but the most radical situation. And if she had never been held back by Janeway, she's completely mad. So this makes
So I
sense.
got to
Janeway is
ask
no longer
you.
there to guide her.
So I got to ask you, since you have more knowledge about Voyager as a whole work. What do you think could have happened that led to 709 and Janeway no longer being kind of, you know, what's going on? Like, why didn't 709 pursue like a science career, even with the, Romulan supernova and the Hobus and everything like that? What do you think went wrong that would take her away from that
My
influence of Janeway?
my elaborate
Review.
fake fake headcanon backstory as it
Oh,
stands
gotcha, gotcha,
is
gotcha.
once they got back to Earth, Janeway continued her career in Starfleet, became an admiral as we saw in Nemesis, and Seven of Nine decided to distance herself from all of that and wanted to become Annika a little more, and so she
Which
did become.
she's referred to as Annika in this episode, yeah.
In my mind, she becomes more of Annika, and she and Icheb stay together, and they become very close. And then when the whole Hubble situation, the Romulus situation happens, that and the Federation pulls out, the Starfleet pulls out. That's when she decides, due to the influence of her husband Chakotay,
Oh, they're
um,
married? I didn't know.
I don't know if they're married. They're in a relationship in the final episodes.
Se 7 of 9 and Chakotay.
Yeah, they're in a
Oh,
relationship in those
interesting.
final episodes. So I
Yeah, because
don't.
he's not present either, so that's interesting. Oh, wow.
So in my mind, due to his influence being, he was like with the Maquis, doing like it's because of his influence about with the Maquis and the greater cause and what have you, that she kind of becomes part of this organization, the Fenris Rangers and what have you. Um, and then
Picard.
in my mind, how should I put this? Janeway and Seven distance themselves because she's full Starfleet and she doesn't agree with what Seven's doing. And the only thing that's kind of tying them together is B'Elanna Torres, because B'Elanna is now in this capacity where she stayed in Starfleet, so she talks to Janeway, but she comes from the Maquis background, so she understands what Seven's going through and what Seven's doing. So she's the only one that's keeping them tied. That's me. That's too much. They probably
That's
weren't
really
showing.
cool. I can't wait to have that level of head canon for Star Trek Voyager. I didn't life got in the way and I never really completed Star Trek Voyager when it aired, but I did see like maybe half of the first season. And then I had no idea how cool the show was until I started rewatching it just recently. So I'm really excited about getting to know
Really
these
great.
characters. But this must have felt like I don't, regardless of what you feel about the particulars or the details of how the show brought Seven back, this must have felt like a big deal to you, like bringing all these Voyager elements into Star Trek Picard. It kind of
Oh,
like, yeah,
I feel a bit sad for those that are fans of Deep Space Nine because I think that I don't
yeah, but
like
there's hints of Deep Space Nine coming into it
generally
too.
generally speaking, I think that the Star Trek fandom has gravitated towards saying that Deep Space Nine is the favorite show. Now, this isn't the case for everyone, well, especially not for me. I like Voyager more than Deep Space Nine, but I think that generally speaking, if you were to do a poll, maybe like Deep Space Nine would be kind of the fan favorite. Um, but they have like the biggest thing they have is a Quark shout out in this episode, right? That's all they have, and I feel kind of sad for them and sorry for them because like no one like they they could have gone to Deep Space Nine or something, but I guess you could have built a set and everything. But
Yeah,
as a
I'm
Voyager fan, I'm like, oh my, they're acknowledging this because I don't know, Star Trek the franchise seems to always do the original series. It's like everything always gravitates around the original series, even the physical release and the content or whatever. And then sometimes they do Picard things. Well, sometimes they do Next Generation things, but mostly Picard data or Worf related. Um, but now I'm getting all of this Voyager stuff. I'm loving it.
Well,
I'm
even the
loving it.
fact that Icheb is in Starfleet in that same episode in Perfection, he's petitioning to join Starfleet, and he's going like one of the things that Seven of Nine is helping him with, and it's an emotional scene in the episode, is that she's like telling him like, "Oh, you can go to B'Elanna Torres help you study warp theory. You can go to, Kim swears he aced some exam and like all this," and he goes, well, why can't I study astrometrics with you? And she's like, because she gets all like crazy on him, like, much like a mother would to a child. It was very interesting, and so I just thought like, uh, well, it works in a bunch of ways. You already have that like knowledge in your subconscious, whether you remember all those specifics of the episode or not. You've
Got to
got it.
understand that these four
Yeah,
kids, or these multiple, I think there's four total kids that they save from the collective. Seven of Nine really takes the job of helping them at heart, and so she does it. There's comedic aspects to it because the fun will now commence. Quote
right.
where she
Which
does
I
a strict schedule for them. Like you got to play at this time, you got to eat at this time, you got to study at this time, and then so she they have like an hour slot to have fun. So fun will now
right.
commence. So there's a comedic aspect to it, but there's also this very deep kind of motherhood ingrained into her because she's really taking care of them and she wants them to thrive and she wants them to get better. And
And you really
I
see
think
that, yeah.
ultimately she's happy to send them back because we don't keep all of those kids, right? The objective is to find a home for these kids or find their original homes, and you can feel it like she's saddened when she lets them go.
Who would you compare Icheb to from, like, let's say, TNG or Deep Space Nine? Is he like a Jake and Nog level character, or is he like Miles on TNG, like Miles and, kind of like an O'Brien who comes in once in a while, or is he on pretty regularly?
I think he's on pretty regularly once the character is there.
Mm,
um but we don't see him all the time, but it makes sense because he's not necessarily like a bridge crew or main character. He's on there. I think he would be maybe um yeah, I think maybe like a Miles O'Brien in the
okay.
sense
On
that he comes.
TNG, you mean?
Yeah, that's it. In the way that he comes in or comes out, or the way they use Barkley throughout the
Oh,
entirety of Star Trek, right? Because Barkley, he has like appearances in
well, but
multiple
right. Well,
shows.
now yeah. Well, I mean, I guess he was important. So, the show's not afraid to kill characters from the past. So we lose Maddox and we lose Icheb, right? Like, so
Yeah,
how do you feel about like? I feel like now no one's safe, and I'm a little scared about
I
that.
wonder if
They cannot kill me, eh? I
I wonder if it is okay. This is just a question, all right?
okay.
I wonder if the fact that these characters had to be recast is a reason or if it's completely unrelated. Maybe it's just maybe they had intended to on killing these characters in the first place. That's how they wrote the story, and it just so happens that they had to recast them. But maybe it's because they had to recast these characters that they chose them. You know what I mean?
to die.
Because
To
they
like,
couldn't bring
I
yeah,
think
they couldn't bring back Icheb's original actor because there's controversy around him. We won't get into it, but there's controversy, and so they probably didn't want to associate themselves with him.
right.
Um,
I
so they
mean,
took him out.
killing Icheb also is just like a very poignant way to like show you Seven of Nine's pain and have you
Yeah,
relate to her in that
I think it
moment.
was a
So
good
yeah.
choice. I'm not. I was a bit so Icheb. I don't care if it's a different actor because it's 10 years later. He's an adult male going from his 20s to 30s essentially, or something like that. Um, we change a lot in those years, so it's fine.
Well, when does
Bruce,
Voyager get back uh
it gets back
to the
maybe
Alpha Quadrant?
well, it got back maybe 8 to 10 years before that moment, before the 13 years later in Picard.
Oh, so yeah, it's
Like
not that. I see what you're saying.
so it makes sense that he changes. It was Bruce Maddox that I'm not holding it against the episode at all. Star Trek and like media in general has always recast, but um I would have liked to see the original actor, Bruce Maddox.
I was 100% betting that the original actor would come back. Actually,
I
like,
was too actually, and I
yeah,
think did they
I
put
didn't realize that. Like,
a beard on
I
him just was it like for story purposes, or was it to kind of hide the fact a little more that it wasn't really him?
it could that would be a valid reason to do it, but I think that like I heard that like some people are speculating that like uh the actor I forget his name is Brian something who played Bruce Maddox for whatever reason is retired from acting and just doesn't want to come back. You know, and we made a joke
Oh,
about it.
okay. He could
We
have
were
come
like,
back. Like, well, he does whatever the hell he wants,
yeah, but
but
I
he could have
guess
come back to die. I mean,
it
he
could
could have come back for one episode, but
I think that you know there's just some people and you have to respect that. I think that like where it's
Brian
not. Yeah,
Brophy,
this might not be important to him at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's important to
I
us, but this may be like completely. He may have been like, "Oh, I really don't even know. I was acting to pay the bills. Now I'm a professor. That's what I've always wanted to do, and
Yeah,
I'm
he's
done." You
currently
know,
the director of
right?
theater arts at the California Institute of Technology, which means that's so yeah, he's basically taking care and helping young actors, right?
And then, and we can't preclude the fact that like negotiations may have not gone in his favor. Like maybe they only had a certain budget, and he thought he deserved more to come back, and so Star Trek was like, okay, we can't pay you the same as Patrick Stewart. Sorry.
I don't
Like,
think I don't think that Brian Brophy or Brophy, I don't know how to say it.
I'm just saying there's I'm just
Big
saying there's
Brian.
a
I'm
mere.
not sure that my boy Brian was
I
asking for the same paycheck as Sir Patrick Stewart.
hey, hey, I would if they want me on there. First of all, PewDiePie would play Starfleet Boy in Star Trek Picard, and he would charge a lot of
Who would
money.
play me?
What's that?
Who would play me?
No, but
Who would be me?
I think you would be Ninja. It would be PewDiePie and Ninja. You don't want to be Ninja? You don't like Ninja? All right.
God damn it! Can I get like Ray William Johnson to go old school?
You could be I Justine.
All right.
I think that would actually be awesome.
So they would do a gender swap for my role.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if
Like
like
this isn't diverse enough.
right.
The two
You're
of us.
you're not we're not interesting enough. It has to be PewDiePie and I Justine playing us.
All
But
right.
but I really honestly just in my little isolated world where I don't think about when I'm into a TV show, I don't think about all these contract things and all that stuff. I genuinely was expecting to see that same guy,
Yeah.
the same actor, Icheb. I didn't know as well, but I do know about Manu Interami.
I don't know. Manu something.
Man, it's something he when I first came on Twitter, he followed me, and I was so
Mm.
excited because I was like, "Oh, I don't know who your character, but I know you're in Star
He
Trek."
follows everyone.
Are you follow shaming? Are you are you calling him like a promiscuous follower? Is that what you're doing right now?
We can,
Wow.
we can talk. We can talk
Does
off
he
camera
follow you?
about
Oh,
the
okay, we'll
situation.
talk. Well, I know he's controversial, so I
Yeah,
respect your
there's
decision.
controversy kind of surrounding
Yeah, so I've
the
talked a
next
little bit
part.
about it.
Maybe CBS didn't want to associate themselves too much with him.
Yeah. I think ultimately that's gonna that's gonna come down to whatever Manu Intirami, and if he happens to talk with the production team, and because he seemed genuinely snubbed, like I thought, like, when I saw his reaction, he felt like, oh, no one even told me
Well,
that.
there could be
Yeah.
that as okay. So there could be the fact that they didn't want to necessarily, talk to this guy because of the situations. Maybe they talked to the original actor for Bruce Maddox, but Brian Brophy, but maybe he said he couldn't come back, or maybe because we don't know, maybe the production will just like these characters. We know that they're going to be present for one episode. They're going to die after like each ep has what, maybe 2 minutes of screen time tops. So they're like, we don't even need to go and bother and get these original actors. We'll
Right.
just pick someone that kind of looks like them, and it's fine.
Right. I mean, we could
I
go
think
on all
I think
day. It's
I think
true.
they did a good. I think they did a good. Personally, I think they did an all right job at
With both
with both.
portrayals.
Like
Yes, I
if
think
you
the
were to put
actors that
if you were to
played
put
them
them
were
side
great.
by side, maybe you would say, hey, they don't look the same. But within the context of the episode, like you understand it's Ichib straight away because of the makeup on the nose. I was like, that's Ichib immediately. And Bruce Maddox was the one that's a bit he's harder to recognize, but the context is so different. He's wearing civilian clothes. He's older. He's got the beard. Um, he doesn't have that Starfleet uniform with the classic blue. So like the context is so different that ultimately that's maybe why it's harder for me to reconcile the two faces. Does that make sense?
Right. It does make sense. I I think that, like, yeah, it's a really complicated situation because there's so many different, like, pieces involved to it. But I'm glad we talked about it, and I just would like to say, and you're welcome to make a statement as well. But, like, um, you know, it we all have things in our past that we're not really, perhaps, very proud of, and it could be something as, like, uh unmeaningful to the majority of people, like when you were in kindergarten, you ripped up a, another person's, like, drawing, or it
Mm,
could be something like saying stupid ass statements about another person when they're going through their own trouble. It could be a myriad of things. um I think that, like, my impression is that uh you know the actor who plays Ichib is gives a great performance in Voyager, and based on this episode that I watched, I was really, like, moved and captured by his ability to, like, interest me so quickly in this character that I'd never knew before.
mm.
And so, while it is a shame that he wasn't allowed to reprise his role and die, I will say that, like, sometimes life just kind of turns out the way it does, and for my part, I would just like to say that I feel like he's very remorseful about what he did, and I hope that at one point in the distant future he can find a way to come back to Star Trek, which he seems to really love. So that's all I'll say.
Star Trek is it's a science fiction franchise where there are plenty of aliens, and there's also plenty of time travel, and there's plenty of shenanigans going on all the time. I
Yeah.
hope that they never do time travel ever again, but that's personal. Um, but no, there's a million ways to bring back actors or to have cameos from people that aren't even actors, right? Like just if there's
Well, yeah,
like anyone, I don't know,
like
like
Cardi B, I think she would be great in Star Trek.
If
Just
Cardi B wanted to be
and talk
um
about a
on an
controversial
episode,
figure.
yeah, hey, if she wanted to be an alien, just like a god or something standing on a planet, like standing on the surface of a planet or
She would
whatever.
have.
Like
I love
she
the actor
you know
they cast for Bejazel, but she would have been a great Bejazel, personally, in my opinion. Cardi B, like when just
but Jazel
before,
is the character that I had the most problems with, because she felt very Gotham.
like the show Gotham.
Gotham the show is a show that is not generally appreciated by Batman fans.
I don't watch it, so I don't know anything about it.
Well, it's over, but it
Oh,
started out as like an interesting kind of take, I suppose, on Gotham the city, but then it became more of a parody, which was
hmm.
weird because all of the characters that they had, and I know that the characters in Batman are eccentric, right? Penguin, the Riddler, the Joker, they're all kind of eccentric characters,
Everyone
but
has a
yeah,
psychosis
they've got a gimmick or whatever.
of some kind. Yeah.
But Gotham took that to the extreme, where basically every character that you ever saw on screen was kind of over the top, and no one, like everyone, felt like the spoof of a human, no longer just a human character, right? They like, and it was as much in their attire as the way that the actors, because the actors, everyone gives it their all, right? But they make so much of a fuss. Like everyone's got it's spiky hair with the red on one side and the white on the other, and they're wearing leather jackets but with spikes on one side and fluff on the other. You know what I mean? It's all very
It just
ridiculous.
shows it just shows me that you haven't been to a proper club ever, maybe, or or in your life, that you don't think that that's a like a thing that like exists in reality. That's funny.
But all of these people have a gimmick, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's
all of
how
these
like
characters,
that's like you've never been to a club. I've been to many. I was a clubber in my day. I don't think you have.
so all
I'm
clubs are
gonna bet
basically Gotham.
it's the same. Gotham
So
is
everyone,
based on.
everyone's in like a bad cosplay.
I used to go to a club very regularly called the Morgue,
Okay,
and
ooh,
I would dress like Doctor Who to each of the nights. So I dressed up fully, and I would dance in my Doctor Who outfit, which it could have been like this. It could have been like now. I wish I were a clubber now, because I would go as the Hermit of La Barre, 100%.
you would
That
do
would
the
be my.
accents and everything. You just wouldn't,
I,
you wouldn't let go
the
of the
I wouldn't
character.
be, I wouldn't let go of I would be the Hermit. I would introduce myself as the Hermit of La Barre.
Give me a drink,
And in
yes.
fact, in fact, to push it even further, there was a time that I still went. I loved clubbing so much that I still went clubbing during a time where I took a vow of silence, where I didn't speak for a whole month. So I went clubbing and couldn't talk to anyone, and I carried a little notebook around with me so I could talk to people by writing to
Oh
them.
my goodness,
So I love.
you are a Gotham villain. You're eccentric.
so, so, so yeah, just say I'm just trying not to defend. I get what you're saying, but I
I live in
do.
a world
Yeah.
of like original, just salted chips and vanilla ice cream. I live in a world that's
You're
white bread
like
and
a proper dad. You have to be very responsible. Like if you went clubbing, I would be very upset. I would be cross with you.
cross.
And yeah, I would be probably critiquing you. You get so mad because I would critique you. I would say
There you go.
that's that's
There
not
you
what
go, clubbing.
that's not what dad on the tube does.
Anyway, no, she felt a bit like that. But
Okay,
then,
gotcha.
I mean, other than that, no, because everyone, like all of the other characters that we follow, they were doing characters, right? So that's fine. Big Rockman,
I
he was an
love
alien.
Lizard Man. I loved him because he reminded me of Dick Tracy, and also the Batman animated series. That style of animation, he had those very sharp shapes, and he was like really tall.
It
Like
reminded me
that's
of the what is he, the Thing?
oh yeah, that too. It could have been from
His
the
makeup was
Fantastic Four.
incredible.
Yeah, it was really good
All right,
work.
so Jerry Ryan's makeup is not good.
What?
Um, and it wasn't good in Voyager either. It's just that now it's full HD and it's shown from close up, so you can
Wait, hold
see that
on.
it's
We got to
plastic.
distinguish. Are you talking about her prosthetic or her makeup? Because she looks
Oh,
gorgeous.
sorry,
Like
no,
her.
not her makeup, her
Oh,
prosthetic.
okay. I just want to make
The,
sure.
the,
Okay.
the Borg parts, the Borg technology. She's got them on the fingers and she's
Gotcha,
got them on,
gotcha.
the eyebrow. They look like shit. They look like
I didn't think so. Really?
plastic
They thought
garbage.
they looked like shit to you?
Yeah, they do. But the thing is,
Do you know?
they always look like shit. They did in Voyager.
Oh,
It's
you
just
never
that
liked them. Okay. I thought they looked good
well,
in Voyager too.
I never noticed in Voyager because it's not HD and they always film her from pretty far away. Whereas here we got that full HD close-up shot of her holding Ichib, and so you could see that it's just plastic. Well, it's
I'll have to.
what do they use? They
Oh,
use
look, another excuse for me to go back and watch it again
oh
because
no,
I didn't notice. I didn't notice anything
I
that
don't
stood out in a negative way. That's funny.
care that much though. I mean, it's not like this is the kind of thing that I will commend. For example, the Orville have some very good makeup on that show, some very good sorry prosthetics and alien
Prosthetics.
designs, and I commend them for that. I congratulate them. But if they were to do some of them that were shit, I wouldn't. You know, if it isn't overtly terrible, then I wouldn't complain about it. It's just it really is like a bonus to have really good stuff, kind of like the CG. If the visual effects aren't too good, I'm okay. It's fine. It's a TV show.
I would
But
say
if they are,
upon
I will comment on it.
third viewing, I did feel that there could have been more depth and definition to the CG in uh, um, I always want to call it Cloud City, which is from
Free
Star
Cloud.
Wars, but Free Cloud. Thank you. Although it's really impressive, and if like it, but I feel like it could just be there could be more to
Oh,
it. More. But it is really impressive. I did like that you saw that tweet, I think, that Quark's bar is on there. And we talked about that just a little earlier. But also, there's Mr. Mott's hair shop, apparently, is there too.
that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting. That I feel like
Those are
this
obvious
isn't
to me. Those are obvious Easter eggs. They're just for
the
like,
obvious,
yeah,
but
they're planted. Like, it's not likely that Mott and Quark would like end up in the same place, but
I
it's
don't think that
cool.
they're on this planet. I think those are franchises.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree.
Because
They're
I think
like
that so Quark, you don't know, but Mott, I think he would live on a very law-abiding Federation kind of surveyed planet, right? He
he's
wouldn't.
yeah. Yeah,
Mott
yeah, it's
wouldn't.
true.
He wouldn't. He would rather. He would discuss the
By the way,
illegitimate situation of Free Cloud with his clients, right? He would be like, "Oh, I wouldn't go to that planet. Well, what's that planet about? It's just doing drugs and what have you."
no,
He
what would happen
would
is that Picard would come for his haircut because Picard just goes to the planet no matter where he is. He doesn't go to anyone else but
follows him
Mr.
around.
Mott. And he
He
would
has
be
to
like,
change quadrant. He doesn't care.
I was on Free Cloud recently and I saw you have a barber shop there, but I was afraid to go in because I thought surely Mr. Mott is not here. And he would be like he'd be like, "Oh, no, no, no. That's one of our franchises. It's not a
Yeah,
company store, Jean-Luc."
correct. So I wonder if so in this world they probably still have resumes, right?
I think
CVs.
I think
I wonder if
it's for sure you still have to compete for a job. You don't just get to work in
yeah,
anything. Like, you
especially
can't
in
become a cyberneticist if you didn't study it.
no,
Like,
but
you
if,
can't.
like even if you're a chef, right?
Yeah,
You're
you
a
would have a
cook.
CV. Yeah, it would say you
You
served on the Enterprise. It'd be a big deal.
yeah, I wonder if you like you say, hey, I was barber for like the Enterprise D, you know, right, the flagship of the Federation of Starfleet. I was the barber on that for however many years, let's say 6 or 7 years or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you think that has weight?
I certainly think so, and I can say just from personal experience that, and I try not to exploit this too much, but just having the fact that I worked for Apple for a time on my resume always turns like ask questions about it, and they get very
Oh, really?
curious. Yeah,
Oh,
so
well, I'll just have to start writing that on my resume.
you could just put Starfleet Boy on your resume, and people will get curious.
I'll say that I wrote for Apple, and then as the contact number for the reference, I'll just put yours.
No, I can't do that. We just talked about Mr. Mott being so ethical, and you just presented like a Quark proposition.
I have a business opportunity.
Oh my goodness. What's yours is ours. I love that that's the way that the phrase is, like what's yours is ours. It's kind of brilliant.
I want to talk about something.
Okay.
I have multiple things that I loved in this episode, but I want to talk about something that I found a little strange. All right,
All right.
Elnor. Um, they play him as like the comic relief fish out of water kind of thing, and I understand where they're coming from in the sense that he's never really left his planet. He doesn't really know what's going on. He's not used to these kind of situations. But I felt like they played that a little, like they played it up a bit too much, and it felt a bit like a 180 or a character flip on who he is as a character. He was so silent, well, so serious and so kind of drama driven in his first appearance, and here he's a clown. I Do you feel the same way, or is it me, or I felt like they did too much with it.
It's not you. It's not you. It's me. No,
It's-
no, it's not you. It's not you. It's me. Um, I do find it.
did I just
I
break
do.
up with Starfleet boy here? What's going on?
Oh my gosh, never, never, no, no, no. We're in a different kind of relationship. It's not a. I mean, it's
Okay,
romantic, but more bromantic. You know, it's like
romantic. Is it?
it's but what I will say is that I see your concern only to a degree because I did enjoy the gags. Like I thought that they worked really well. But I also would like to just this is gonna be like a moment where get ready, get the boxing gloves on here. But didn't weren't you just saying that like you missed the corniness from Star Trek? And I felt like this was really corny in a way. Like it was corny humor. And so I thought you would actually enjoy it. I'm surprised that you did not enjoy that humor.
It's more the character change that I hey look, I enjoyed the jokes. I think the first one didn't work.
I
The
I
first one
didn't
when
think the
he
character was
complains about
joke,
not
but that's
getting
the thing
an
is that's the thing. I think the situation was humorous because the character was not joking. I mean, he looks like when he doesn't get a cartoon, he seems like genuinely, because he's
that
see
one didn't make me laugh. That was the
it
first
made
one that
it didn't make me laugh either. It made me go, "Ah, poor Elnor." Like that's the reaction that I had. Like I was like he does like he's genuinely like excited. He's like, "Wow, there's these like things." But then he's like, "Everyone got one except me." And he so he's very like that's the way of candor. He expresses his true in the moment emotion, which is an interesting thing because it's in the moment. That's what you have to remember.
I
Like,
didn't think
you know what I
about
mean?
that. I
Like
wonder if they're gonna carry that on. That's very true. He did express his emotions like straight up, and I wonder if they're gonna carry that on throughout well, the rest of the season, right? The
I think
half
this
season.
is yeah, I think this is like a preview of how it's gonna be, and I love that scene where he's like, "Oh," like he realizes that everyone's pretending, and he expresses his excitement because you do get when you realize something, you do get
Thick
excited.
Australian accent. Oh, it's a lie.
Yeah, oh, it's a lie. I can't do that. You do it really good though. But where he gets excited and then he goes and he's like, I do think that like the way I describe Elnor, and this might not be accurate, but it's the best that I can come up with, is he's like an extreme nerd for being a nun, like a warrior nun. Like he's the most he's totally devoted his whole life to being this thing. So now he's being exposed even the smallest things either surprise him or upset him in ways that no one else would be surprised or upset. And like so when he
He's not
realizes
used
that
to real life, basically, is what you're saying.
he's not used to real life at all, and so everything's like new to even these little things. And I love that moment where they all everyone looks at him annoyed except poor Jean-Luc, who gets him. And Jean-Luc is like, "Don't worry, just be Elnor." And then she's like, "But be a quiet Elnor, like don't talk." Like. And I thought the humor came from the like the situation more than it came from
But Picard
him.
gets angry at him at some point because when they're on the planet and Elnor's like, "Oh, we're not pretending anymore," Jean-Luc's like, "No, Elnor," and then he
I
catches,
read
and
that
then he brings it back, and and then he looks at Seven. He says, "No, we're not pretending anymore," and then he
right.
pulls it back. But in that moment,
Yeah,
he's like,
I see
"No,
that
Elnor, we're not pretending anymore, Elnor."
anymore.
Just anyway,
I s-
I thought that it was a good thing, but they took it a little too far for me, maybe.
the other the other thing I really liked is that like I like that people are like just most people would be a little because he's so young and he looks so innocent. Most people would be very dismissive of him. But the fact is, and I said this talking to Ruben, is that when he walked into the bar, he immediately thought of how can I kill every single person who might threaten Picard. Like that's how his mind works. Like he might seem like really
But
innocent, but
that's a
he's a
single purpose.
yeah, his single purpose is to he binded his sword to Picard. Like that he is in a sense
It's
like
to behead people.
Yeah, and he's not just that, he's gonna fight to live because he knows he has to be the last one. He can't afford to die. He has to be always victorious in a fight to so I just think Elnor's a very interesting badass character, and there's a lot of complexities to him. I think it's a
I
very
can't
interesting.
wait till he gets his fight
Yeah.
because he's gonna get a fight.
He's
Like
gonna get a
they
fight.
you know that
I
they
think so.
trained they trained what's his name, the actor. Oh goodness,
It's Evagora,
Evan Evagora.
I
They,
think.
they trained him to do like a fight because that one little scene was just like a little teaser to what he can
A
do, right?
tease,
With the
yeah, it's
spinning and
true.
but yeah, no, I can't wait for that.
Did you notice I know you probably already know this or saw it, but the Trania, the reference to Tio, there were you there
Oh,
was
you're talking about
so
the drinks, cocktails, and what have you.
well the okay so in the TOS episode I should have researched this and tell you the name, but you know the episode where Clint Howard plays the little like the alien there's like the whole time there's like this cube that they're chasing and the alien is like this
Yeah, and it turns out
figure and
it
it turns
turns
out
out
it's like a guy who looks like a kid
yeah,
and
it's
but he
like
has this
baby
huge
man child
right.
crazy weird thing.
Right. So he
The
offers them the
Corbomite
core.
maneuver.
Thank you, the Corbin. It's such a famous episode. I think feel so embarrassed that I didn't know that off the top of my head. But
But I'm
anyways,
looking. Oh, there it
in the
is.
Corbinite. You say potato, I say potato.
It says
Potato.
Corbomite here on the
Corbinite
interwebs.
maneuver.
Yeah.
He offers this drink. It's called Trania, and he's like, "Please delight in this Trania." And so that's the same thing that she offers Maddox, except this time she poisons him, of course, and knocks him out. And then later on, Quark, of course, is mentioned. I think we already talked about that. Uh,
Mm.
those were the main things that I caught. Of
Quark
course,
of Ferengi.
there's a ton of things that you can reference, like the fact that Ichib is a lieutenant in Starfleet and he wanted to be in Starfleet. So it's kind of cool that even though we see the character die, we know that he kind of lived out his dream a little bit.
Mm.
Um, I also said something wrong in my initial discussion. I said that Fenris. So there's
Okay.
Romulus, there's Remus, and there's Fenris, right? And Fenris, I thought was a reference to the she-wolf that raised Romulus and Remus in actual mythology in
Okay.
Roman. In the founding of Rome as a civilization, the myth is that the founders Romulus and Remus were raised by a she-wolf,
Mm.
and so I thought it was cool, and I misthought that I misremembered that Fenris is the name of the she wolf. I don't think the she wolf has a name, but Fenris is a wolf from Norse mythology, so it's pretty
Not
cool.
really.
Oh, it's not. What is it from?
Fenrir is the
Oh,
wolf from Norse
Fenrir. Are you
mythology.
sure?
He's a wolf's yeah, wolf son of
Uh,
Loki.
well, I
Um,
like
but
Fenris because it's like Romulus, Remus, and Fenris, and
I don't know where Fenris comes from, honestly. I know that Fenrir, R is from Norse mythology. In Norse mythology, it's a wolf, the son of Loki, right? Because Loki has some fucked up children.
So did
Um,
Zeus.
yeah.
Well, no, sorry. Zeus
Anyway,
would appear to you in messed up ways. Like he appeared to a woman as a swan, and then he also appeared to another woman as a bull. Um,
hey, look, thing happens, right? Yeah, no. So I don't know where Fenris comes from, but I like the Fenris. What is it? The Fenris Rangers.
yeah, I would totally
Every
serve as
time they introduce, okay, so here's the thing. I adore the political landscape of like the Star Trek universe as it is. I very much I think that it is kind of I would like to understand why the destruction of Romulus and Remus caused the entire collapse of the entire Romulan Star Empire, because the Star Empire is huge, and I think like they would have had, I don't know, it makes
I
little
thought they
sense
would
to
have
me that
done.
the entire
I
thing would
thought they
collapse.
would have. I thought you could probably move the seat of power to any other planet, but
Not only that, but I think that they would have had senators and official representatives and plenty of people on other planets, right? And I feel like they would have saved the
right.
senators first as well. But anyway, whatever.
If it was
Maybe it'll be
it,
explained
the
someday.
what seems to be set up here is that many systems, not just planets, but many solar systems within the Romulan Empire that were in proximity of this supernova were affected. And that actually is backed up by science because there's things some supernovas can be so big that they could take out like multiple solar systems, not just one, not just the one that
Okay.
it's in. So
The Star Empire is huge. It's like basically as big as the Federation itself. So it's a bit
right,
strange.
so
But to think now, regardless of the reasons or how it happened, to think now that all of that is just a vast, lawless land of nothingness is very, very, very interesting to me, because and
I
the fact that the Federation and Starfleet just don't want to go there either. They're like, nah. They give up on the neutral zone, and anything beyond that, they're just like, it's basically the Wild West out there now. I think that that's a great political landscape. I would like to see, this is me, I would like to see an episode that takes place on a Starfleet ship, and we follow a Starfleet crew, and it's entirely from the perspective of the Federation. And like we see all of these goings on from the Federation kind of perspective, and then we maybe meet, or we see Picard and his ragtag team, but all of this from a Federation perspective. I think that that would help a lot with kind of I don't know, integrating the Star Trek Picard show into the universe, because I think that a lot of people are off put by the fact that it's so different. But it's just because we're coming at it from a different angle, right? If
I
we
love
came at
that.
it from if we came at
That's
it from the Starfleet angle, then maybe
that's a
you'd
great
see,
way to look
oh,
at it.
because these like Fenris Rangers or whatever Captain Picard is doing, like it's always been done in Star Trek. It's just that we've never been on that side. We've always been on the other side.
Well, the Maquis, I mean, there's from Picard's perspective, based on the little scene which I love between him and Seven of Nine, Stewart and Ryan here, which were great. I think they were great scene partners, by the way.
That's
Just
so
from
cool. It's so cool having like TNG actors being able to act with Voyager actors now.
yeah, it is really
I
cool.
love
Like in a
that.
real meaningful way, not just like Janeway appearing on a screen and saying, "Go get him, Jean-Luc." You know, like this is
Yeah,
like
that was
a
amazing
real
too.
big scene. Yeah,
I
no,
gotta
it
be
was
honest.
an amazing
I just
cameo.
love.
Yeah,
And there was the EMH, so the
who appeared
doctor in
in First
First
Contact. Yeah,
Contact.
yeah, that was awesome too.
Give you
Um,
analogies to
I
Kree,
just love that. I
whatever
just
it is.
love that. I get it, and I love that Picard is acting kind of like a unifier of all these different Star Treks, right? Like you can almost say that there's sub fandoms for each of the Star Trek series
Oh,
among
absolutely.
the giant fandom of Star Trek, and I love that Star Trek Picard is kind of
I
if
have
you
to
weren't
defend
interested in
Voyager with my life. People get upset because
I,
there's Discovery hate. Here's the thing:
I was one of those people that
Discovery
I
gets
was one
hate,
of the it's
but
true. But Voyager got
but
hate too. I remember.
if you hate on Discovery, you then get backlash. Whereas when people hate on Voyager, there's no backlash. Like
You're like,
the hate on Voyager is just like it's ingrained in the fandom.
well,
Everyone's like, "Yeah, it's a shit show," and they
well.
wrote Janeway this way and what have you. And I have to live with all of these people constantly they mean to my Voyager.
You're friends with one of those people that might have stayed quiet because I just didn't know. I didn't know. I was, but now I definitely give my sword to the Voyager cause. I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I skipped ahead, and I think it gets really exciting if this show. I also saw Unimatrix
Matrix Zero, parts one and
Zero
two.
parts one, but I saw that before because it was on the Get Ready for
Mm.
Picard, episode list. So I'm digging Voyager. I didn't
Wait a
think I
minute.
gave it a
The
fair
episode
chance
is
the first time around.
oh god damn it, curses. It's called
The Raven is another one that they
The Raven is
rec-
the yeah. The episode I'm talking about for that you have to go and watch for each is called Child's Play.
Child's Play. Got it.
Child's Play. So it's season 6, episode 19. Um,
We're coming up on the hour mark. I don't want to rush us out, but I want to see where you're at. Do you feel like there's more to say? I think I might have a few things to say.
I have so many things. I could go on for like 3 hours, but
Let's
we
well
need
we
to
yeah
end it.
we can't go on for 3 hours, but let's give ourselves a little more leeway. I just want to also say that in that scene I noticed a couple of things going back to what you said earlier about like what's the state of the Romulan Empire. I think they're going to reveal it. I don't know if we're going to get it all in one season. It's hard to believe that in 5 episodes they're going to like speed us into this like
I
thing.
get a sense that they they didn't how can I put this? They wrote the specific story of these characters, but they set up the grand universe just because they needed context, or they needed they needed a backdrop for the characters and the character stories, but they're not necessarily going to focus on all of the details of the big. You know what I mean? That's just
Yeah.
that needed to be established in order to have these character stories work. But it's really the characters
I
that you're
think
going to
10
follow.
episodes are too. I'm enjoying this series so much that I think 10 episodes are too few. Like, I really
I
wish they had
agree.
gone for
I think
15.
they should do 10 episodes of Picard, and then the 13 episodes of Discovery that they had planned, just remove them and do 13 more of Picard instead. That's, that's my
You just
feeling.
casually and informally drop these very extreme budget cut. Like, if we were at CBS right now and you were an executive, you you would be looking at the data, you'd be looking at Twitter, you'd look at your favorite YouTube shows, and you say, "Guys, I know we already said we greenlit Star Trek Discovery, but we're going to cut all 13 of those episodes and we're going to move that budget to Picard. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you for your work. Have a
we're
nice
going
day." Like,
we're going to take the budget for the 13 episodes of Discovery. We're going to make
oh my gosh.
6 more Picard episodes and an HD remaster of Deep Space Nine.
Oh, you know how to
That's
like sell it. You know how to sell it to me.
that's what we're gonna do. And if someone complains about Discovery, um,
I think
too bad.
I think it's worth going back to this. We're getting really crazy. That's what happens when we're trying to be on a time limit. We get crazy. But going back to the state of the universe, Picard seems to see the Fenris Rangers in a similar way that he used to see the Maquis, but he's more tolerant
Yeah,
of them.
I think
And
the Maquis were a problem in the sense that the Maquis, I don't know, like the Maquis were within the Federation borders. Essentially, they were creating diplomatic situations between an enemy of the Federation, the Cardassian, what is it, Empire, whatever it is, and the Federation itself. Whereas the Fenris Rangers, they're working outside of any jurisdiction. Like this, it's just warlords with old Romulan, warbirds or whatever it is.
well, the Fenris Rangers are the only thing keeping those guys from getting out of control,
Exactly.
apparently. Right,
So
right.
it's not. It's more justifiable in my mind than the Maquis.
In real life, oftentimes you find out that organizations like the Fenris Rangers, vigilante organizations or groups, are like secretly funded by governments. So I
Hmm.
wonder if Janeway isn't fueling some kind of
I don't
like,
think so. I think
you
she's
don't think
very
she's
much
helping
against
him
what
out?
I don't feel
Yeah,
like it's in her character to be on board with what
on board with the
Seven of Nine's
Fenris
doing.
Rangers,
And I
from what
think
you're
that
seeing. Yeah.
every time Belana, which I'm very much hoping she has her own ship or something, every time Belana and Janeway talk, and it always deviates to Seven, and they just get mad. And then so like Janeway has to calm the situation, stop getting mad, and say something about like,
That's
how are the
that's
kids?
that's another thing that that's another thing that's great because you do see how much she would feel betrayed by Seven if she didn't like if she were doing things that were not exactly up to snuff.
Janeway nurtured and took care of her the same way Seven took care of Ichib, right? Like this is like she was.
Well,
It wasn't just a project. It was
in that
really.
episode Imperfection, she was ready to go find a live Borg drone and she was ready to like
She's insane.
she was ready to kill a and the doctor says, "Wait, you're telling me you're going to swap one life for another?" And she's like, "I can't let her die." It was like so good. It was such
I,
a good
we've come this far.
we've come so far. I love Janeway. She was great in
She's
that
great.
episode. And then you also find out that she's from Bloomington, Indiana. So shout out to a great American town called Bloomington, Indiana.
Yes,
We
and
named our pet. She passed away. She's a dog. Her name was Indiana, so she was named after Indiana.
um, what is it called? Bloomington, Indiana. The hometown of Janeway. If I can find my bloody link, the hometown of Captain Janeway here. They are building a statue.
What? That's
Yes.
great because you know Riverside, Iowa is the home of Captain Kirk, and they have a monument there.
Okay. They are building a Captain Catherine Janeway statue. And
Gary's gonna have to do another road trip.
I participated in the campaign. I was like, yes. I don't finance many campaigns, but when I saw that they're doing this, I was like, absolutely. So they got 14K. They needed 12,000, and they got 14. Um,
Wow.
I'm part of the 121 patrons apparently. But no, I absolutely I was like, yes, you're building a statue for Janeway. Yes.
That's really
Well, it's not
cool.
necessarily a statue, but it's a bit of a monument. They have like a mock up on the
Do
link
you
here.
think that they'll build a monument to Jean-Luc in La Barre now in La Barre, France? I
That
think
would be
so.
fun. That would be fun. I
We
think they should
should.
build Chateau Picard.
I think Chateau Picard already exists. There is a winery called Chateau Picard that existed. I think it may have been where they picked up the that whole idea from. Is that the who knows how they came up with Chateau Picard, but the real Chateau Picard exists. It's a real place in I think it's in La Barre even. They may
Well,
have based him,
The La Barre that I think they base themselves on is the La Barre that is in I think it's Haute-Saône. It's basically in the region of Bourgogne,
yes, the yes,
which is the wine region.
right. Well, there's a lot of different wine regions, but yeah,
There's a lot of
Bourgogne. There's
Bourgogne
yeah,
is very famous, and
yeah.
so I think that's why they went for La Barre
I
originally when
think
they
the
were writing.
Midi Pyren the Haute Loire is another wine producing region, and
The entire
around
France, like France in general, is just producing wine. They're like just throwing
you
mass quantities
I
of wine at everyone.
walked I backpacked through France, right?
I know that's amazing.
From
Every time you tell me
yeah,
that, I remember it, and I'm
you're like
blown
I
away.
literally was I was the backpacker of of France. Yeah, at one point. I bet you teenager Jean-Luc did that. He probably went through the
You think?
country. Yeah,
No, he
it's a
was.
fun thing to do.
I don't know. He was. He wasn't like that
Had
when he was younger. He
He
got
had his
debarred.
head up in the clouds, always looking in the stars, always wanting that replicated food, eh?
That's his brother.
Well,
You
so now we have
know,
two characters on Drunk Space Nine. We have the ghost of Robert Picard, and we have the Hermit of La Barre. Those are the two characters now that appear on Drunk Space Nine.
they
So
interact.
they do well. They should leave him alone, Robert. I will not. My Marie cooked in this kitchen, and now you have a Romulan
You see the link
infestation in the house.
I sent you? This is completely unrelated. I sent a link to the spiky dildo ship. Did you click? Did you click on it? Did you look at the model? Did you actually see what it looks like?
Yes, it looks exactly. It looks exactly like. That's where we came up with it, right? Didn't you originally critique that same ship
I
on?
did say that it looked like that in the show, but this time we have you can actually purchase this as a physical model.
Now it's canon. It's canon now. Spiky dildo is canon. It's part of the Star Trek lore. That's very brilliant. Um, what else? Oh, okay. I guess we have to talk about this. Uh, your girl Agnes. Like, what's going on? Like, she is your girl. Come on, you love her. You love Agnes. What's going on?
Not anymore.
But there's some interesting little clues that are
Girl
dropped.
Agnes has turned
Oh, one
into
thing.
now
Don't
I'm
know
in
if
love
you
with Rio.
saw this. Don't know
I'm in love
if you
with
saw
Rio.
this, but
I've
what?
changed. I'm in love with Rios now.
Oh,
I've
okay.
changed.
Got it. Speaking of real, so we got to get back to Agnes, but there's one thing I noticed in
I'll leave you.
one of
You
my
can have Elmo.
subsequent. you ship, you ship with Rios. I'll ship with Elnor. Is that what?
I ship Agnes and Rios together so I can have them both.
Yes,
I
it's
take them as
true.
a package.
Wow. Okay, stop. This has gone too far. I just found out what standing means today. I didn't know what standing meant.
Standing.
Standing. Stanning.
Oh,
Standing.
standing.
Yeah.
As in
Anyways, but
being a fan of.
yeah, how does that relate? Like, how does standing come from fan? I don't know. But anyways,
Because the song by Eminem is called Stan.
you
The
assume
song.
I know his
Okay,
music.
Eminem has a song called Stan, in which he pretends to be a character which is a fan of his, and it's a in every verse the character is sending him a tape telling Eminem, "Oh, I love you so much. I'm your biggest fan. I came to your concert. I came with my little brother, and what have you." And then the guy talks about his issues in all of the verses. And in the third verse, the fan sends another. He sends a tape to Eminem saying, "I'm fucking mad because you've never replied to any of my letters. You've never like been any of my friends. Like you've never become my friend or whatever." And the dude commits suicide, and it's very heavy. It's a very heavy song, and there's Ditto doing the hook, and Eminem then in his final verse does like he responds, he replies to it, and so Stan is like he's like an extreme, intense fan of Eminem, and that's where becoming a Stan is from. Like
Oh,
you're a
so it's an
Stan of,
intense version
it's like
of
an
fandom.
intense version of fandom, yeah.
It's like how Database Boy is for Starfleet Boy. Like Database Boy is like my stan, but
There
I
you go.
gave
So
him a shot.
that's where
I
Stan comes
gave
from. You,
I gave Database Boy a shot. He's working for me now for free.
oh, okay,
That's good.
I see.
But sometimes I'm Database Boy when he can't
We're off
do
track.
his job.
I'm gonna have to leave eventually.
I have to just say a couple more things. We are off track. You're right. Um, when in Maddox's death scene, we get two interesting perspective reveals. One is that Maddox reveals to Picard that he believes that he has sent Dodge and Soji out to gather information because he believes, and it would make sense that he's trying to vindicate his androids that went crazy in the Martian attacks. And so Dodge and Soji are gathering information, and he says that when he tells Girardi about the androids, he says, "Dr. Soong, me, we did it. Dr. Soong, me, and you." And he could be talking about Dr. Soong in the sense of like an inspiration,
Yeah, for sure.
you know, but also I thought that opened up a lot of interesting windows and possibilities for like a Soong type Soong android. Like it totally, to me, it fits within his character that he would also create a Dr.
No,
Soong
I think he was referring
android.
to like the previous works of Sung. Like
Yeah, I agree, but it
some of
opens
his
those,
works based on Sung's
or
work, so you have to kind of give him credit.
or this the same interactive Soong hologram that talks to Data in Data's mom's episode. It said that it recognized Data and it had a separate message just for him. But it's very
Mhm.
possible that Maddox used that same hologram because it was downloaded to the Enterprise computer. So it's possible that he used the same hologram to ask it questions about Soong type androids. And so he may have in a way functioned with, like actually had some kind of interaction with a Soong character. But anyways, but then in that same scene, Girardi says one more thing I have to atone for, and she indicates that Commodore O or whoever, they showed her something so horrific that it made her betray her lover and kill him and turned her against him. And I want to know, like, so it's very interesting, and I want to know what those things are. It's very like, it's driving me a little crazy thinking about it.
I
And Ruben and I had a thought. Maybe he was working in cahoots with Bejazel. I think it was Ruben and I. And he was getting these Borg parts and creating those androids out of the Borg parts, and so that could make him more of a villain, you know.
mm,
So who knows?
there's
There's a lot
more
of
to the story
speculation.
for sure.
Yeah.
I think that Agnes, to finish this off very simply, I think that she's not a bad person. I think that we in the first episodes we learn that the Romulan Jat Vash have a secret so terrible and so unbearable about androids that it blows someone's mind when they learn it. And I think that Commander O or Commodore O, sorry, Commodore O went and
Showed
told
her
that
the secret.
she told Jurati that secret. She showed her the information, and so now Jurati, even though she's a good person, she's just so mind blown that she wants to get rid of every android as well, and she wants to get rid of, in this case, Maddox, who creates them. She wants to get rid of every possibility of them
That's
ever
great.
existing. I think that's the explanation. Like the more they do this though, the more I'm getting hype about what this explanation is going to be, and it better be bloody good. They can't do something that's underwhelming, right? They have to
What if
it has
it's
to
like
be like
that
confusing.
Japanese movie?
Is it probably is that the Romulan Zhat Vash created the Borg,
Mm.
and that's why it's so like controversial, and like the more you learn about cybernetics and the more you advance in this technology, what happens is like the ultimate end is the Borg. Apparently, that's
Or
where
it
I'm
could,
going.
right,
Theory
right.
goes.
That's interesting. Uh, that is very interesting. It kind of makes a lot of sense to me too. Wow, cool. All right, so I think other than that, the only other thing left was Rafi. We didn't talk about her and her son. But I thought I saw
Hmm.
something really weird on one of my rewatches. Uh, Rafi's pinky nail is longer than all her other nails, and that's like a stereotype for a crack addict or a cocaine addict, I think. So, not only is she taking smoking snake leaf, but she might be snorting it up her nose too, and I just felt so bad.
Not anymore. Not anymore. She was.
Right,
She's
she's
not.
clean now, but man,
Okay, I will.
she was had some hard times.
Yeah, you're right. We have to talk about that. I complained about Michelle Hurt's performance in episode 3, I think it was. I thought that she had some awkward scenes with Picard in that flashback, and then this was better. This was much better. I think that her scenes were great. I think that her son is like the guy doing her son was an amazing actor, and she also put in like a very solid performance. I'm pretty
Yeah,
convinced
I
it's due to Jonathan Frakes directing because he really knows how to pull the emotion out of people. Like even in Discovery, he did like very intense scenes with oh, what's she called? I forget now. Mary
Tilly.
Chiefo.
Oh,
She did some
Chifa.
very, yeah,
Yes, she
she did
did
some
great
very
stuff.
intense
Yeah.
scenes with Mary Chiefo, and I think that her best scenes are with Jonathan Frakes directing.
And the
And
thing
so I
is that they
way
shot
of
in order, right? So hopefully Rafi, or sorry, Michelle Hurd will continue on that same vibe that she
mm,
learned through
mm.
Jonathan Frakes and continue to
So
like
shout out to
enhance
her
it.
because that performance was great.
Yeah,
That whole scene was great. Like the like the whole scene is ultimately kind of useless in the sense like it's only there to establish a bit more of the past of Rafi, right? But everything about it was perfect because we've already seen interspecies relationships in Starfleet or in Star Trek, and the Doctor in Voyager at one point says, sometimes mating between two different species can, result in problems or you can have issues, and they're doing all this in like basically a maternity hospital or like a hospital for
a
babies and for
special
helping them
type
out,
of place.
and
Yeah,
that's great. Also, his wife is a classic, well,
I
TNG
thought you'd like
style Romulan with the
TNG
hair
style
and
ramen
everything,
with everything
and
was down pat. Yeah,
I'm like, that's
perfectly
so
done.
awesome. She's even got the like they even colored her kind of the way they
Glittery.
yeah, they did the color in TNG. So all of that was great for me. I really appreciated that scene. It's kind of a scene that ultimately isn't very useful. You don't have to have it, but I'm glad it's there.
I can't let you go because I know that these things interest you for your videos. When Rios and everyone beam back from the hostile situation on the ground with Maddox,
Hmm.
Rios puts the pattern enhancer on top of the. Oh, you did notice it. Okay, he puts it on
Seven
top,
takes it.
and Seven takes it. What's that all about? Like, what's going on there? Like, so she's gonna come back for sure. This is not the end of Seven of Nine
I
for this
think
season.
I think that Seven will come back for sure. She's slated for like 6 episodes anyway, so she
Oh,
is
so
going
she'll be in every episode from
based
henceforth,
on
possibly.
IMDb. But
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
she will come back for sure. But I don't like people made a big deal about her taking the pattern enhancer. I don't think the two are related. I think she just took the pattern enhancer because she needs to beam off the planet. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
like anyone can use it. You're saying it's not tied to the La Serena, like her
It
Fenris
is.
Rangers could.
I didn't understand that it was. I thought it was
Well,
just. I
yeah,
thought it was. I thought it was like they used to have these big
it
ball
is.
things,
You're right, and now it's that size.
and now it's this size. And I
Yeah,
think
that
the
makes
only reason
sense.
is because they're going to like bad guys are
She
going to put up a grid and stop her from beaming off the planet.
But
But now she has
okay,
a
so
little.
that's a nice detail anyways though. That's pretty cool
It
that
is.
she
You're right.
like
It's great.
and I think that Rios actually left it intentionally then in that case cuz he
She
could have
what's important is she left a little transparent plasticky data chip thing, and
she
she
no,
gave
she
that to
hands
Picard.
that to Picard. Yeah, she hands that to Picard, yeah.
That's like a calling card or something. Like contact me with this or whatever.
It felt like in that scene that
It's
Picard
your pad.
yeah.
and you can call me.
So, okay, I know you have to go. Because we want to try to stay under an hour. We decided already, but I just want to say, for me, not even knowing Voyager, that whole scene, the exchange between Jean-Luc and Seven, that, like, where they talk about their humanity and she asks for the phaser rifles. I think that Jean-Luc actually does, like, she says, I want, like, when she gets back to the planet, she's like, I want to keep him innocent of
Mm.
that. Someone has to still have hope, but I think he actually, like, sadly knows, like, like, the way, just the way Jean-Luc kind of, Patrick Stewart acts in that scene where I know it's they're inseparable,
You're
but
absolutely right. He is the same way that we were for Dr. Girardi. Like we knew that something was up, but we were just like, nah, we're going to
yeah,
pretend that it's not. We'll pretend
right,
it's fine.
but he
But he knows.
knows. But then there's that beautiful moment, you were wondering, the Voyager theme music moment happened there, and you must have been just like, were you did you start crying or anything? Did you get
Slightly,
emotional?
slightly modified and slightly, therefore, less good. but but
Bum
no,
bum bum bum.
but it was great. It was great hearing it. It was great hearing it.
Cool.
I'm
All
so
right.
happy that they brought back the Voyager characters. I'm like, wow, you
Seven,
guys are
7 and
acknowledging
9's
Voyager,
there, yeah.
which is insane. I feel bad. So they will acknowledge Deep Space Nine eventually,
I
but I
think
feel
so. I
bad
think
for
Esri. I
right?
have a feeling Esri.
Being the prequel of prequels, being so far away, they'll never be able to acknowledge Enterprise ever, which is horrible for them. It's like, oh, you poor
Well, you
guys.
can still drop. You can drop references to characters as
Yeah,
historical
Captain
figures, and
Archer,
that's,
he's the
yeah,
name and what have you, but like you
yeah.
can't. Anyway, I hope they do something really fucking corny, like bring back um one of the actors from Enterprise and just say, oh, it's his descendant. Because Star Trek does
I
that
would
all
be
the time.
Yeah,
They
they do
do like
that.
Ancestors of
They do
Worf and
that.
Star Trek 6 or whatever it
Yeah.
is. And then like Brent Spiner has played essentially every Sung that's ever existed.
Every
Whatever.
student that's ever existed. He
It's
even goes
true.
in drag. He even goes in drag to play the female Soong
He
characters.
does the original Sung in Enterprise as well. Like he does every Sung ever. Anyway.
Look, whether we get a Soong hologram or a Soong android, it would be cool because Brent Spiner could play him and it would make sense
Hmm.
with the age he's at right now. So I would love it. But anyway, even if it's in a flashback, it'd be pretty cool to have a Soong return
You
to
know that
Picard.
Brent Spiner would still give it his all. He would still be like, ah, he would still get all old.
But he was a younger. No, remember he was a younger. The hologram was a younger version that was closer to, like, what Brent Spiner actually looked like. So it might be, something like that. Anyways, I really appreciate you hanging on for 21 more minutes than we planned for. I do want to bring it to a rating because I love those ratings so much, and I'll go first. No surprise, it's a 10. Yay! Starfleet boy is so predictable. So what's the real rating as you would have in your mind?
What's the real rating? Um, I think it's a 6.5. Um, yeah, yeah. I was hesitating with throwing it up to a 7, but I think that no, I think a 6. I don't know. Should I give it a 7?
Yes, you should. Of course you should give it a 7. What do you think I'm going to
All right,
say?
all right. It's a 7. It's at 7.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, that's good. 7. So we'll round it up to an
It's not the
8.5.
best episode of Star Trek Picard so far. I think my favorite was the previous one, episode 4, Absolute Candor. But
Absolute candor.
it was all right. It was good. It's
I
an
don't think we
it's
said the name of this episode. Stardust City Rag, guys.
it's an
So
it's an
unprofessional.
interesting show so far.
Yeah. I thought this episode did its purpose. Interestingly enough, it never went to the Borg ship. It was fully with the
Yeah,
characters
that's such a
there,
good thing. It's such a positive.
which is why you should have given it a 7 instead of 6.5, I
Uh,
guess. So there you go. There's your justification.
it's 0.5 more because there's no Norek and no Sochi.
You're gonna get a lot of them in next episode. Hold on a second. Okay, are you still there? Oh, just to wrap
I'm
it up, thank
I'm
you for being on.
Yeah.
And what do you got to promote other than your video, which is gonna come out next week?
Well, my video is going to come out next week, and that's it for the moment. That's what I have to talk about. I am working on my Star Trek Episode 5 review. Well, I will be working on it now that we've talked about it. And I've seen it twice. Talked about it. I'm going to be diving deep into the Easter eggs because Star Trek Picard is just full of Easter eggs.
I feel like this episode has a lot of stuff. I didn't even go into it, but there's a lot of minutia, like a lot of little things. I mean, even that whole thing about the cortical node is a deep cut as far as I'm concerned. Like a lot of people are not going to get that if they haven't seen, Voyager.
But
It's
it's
just
great
like,
because they're doing it in a way where like you don't have to see or understand Voyager to get the thing. She's just looking for the cortical node,
right.
and you don't have to know that he doesn't have it
It
anymore.
means so much more though after you've seen that
It is.
episode, which is
There's,
exciting. Yeah,
depth.
it has
There's
depth.
depth to the cortical node.
I guess the writers are getting less lazy, which is a critique that often I hear on Starfleet Boys, so that's good. All right, live long and prosper, Jolon True.
I ain't no Romulan. Romulan's not allowed.
Wow. We'll
Right,
see you
go
next time. And we'll see you next time. Oh my goodness.